This conference will now be recorded.
So in the previous class, we have discussed how to deploy our project into Runtime Manager. Now let's see how to apply any policies on that one. So when I say policies, let's see. So whatever we have deployed, it is working without any security. Like if you want to give, we are not giving any authentication, basic authentication, anything like that. It is working simply. So if at all the client asks that he wants his APIs to be secure, we should be able to give some security to that particular API. Let's give. Let me show you. One employee. So this is my API, what we have deployed, right? Onboarding employee. This is my URL. So if you don't remember this URL, whenever you are deploying, you can simply go and check in the runtime manager. Onboarding employee. So here you will be having this link. So this is the link, and fetch is my method resource, and here this is my query parameter. So if I'm sending this one, it is simply coming without any authentication. Here if you see authorization, I'm not giving anything, it is empty. And in headers also I'm not giving anything. So if you want to perform any operations, how to do that we have to do in the API manager. So these two are two different things. Runtime manager is a different thing and API manager is a different thing. If you see here, I have deployed one application here for sample. But if you see here, we have deployed our project to runtime manager, but it is not showing here. So here we have to deploy it again. It means we have to. This is the way Anypoint platform is designed, that we have to deploy whatever we need. Suppose if you want to manage some APIs, then you have to deploy it to the API manager as well. And how can we deploy? We can go here, manage API. And if you see here, we will be having the three different operations here. One is manage API from Exchange and create new API. So if you want, so how we have created a new API in earlier case, we have created a design center using Grammar. Right here we have a design center. We have our RAML employee onboard. So here we have created in this way. But if you want to directly create there, you can create it. So the steps which we follow for API manager, the suggested steps are, we have to deploy it to API manager using Exchange. So if you see here, there is one option called as manage API from Exchange. So if you see in the Exchange, so I have one sample API which I have deployed, but we don't see our onboarding employee API here. So to deploy our API, first we have to understand what does Exchange does. So Exchange, what is Exchange is? Exchange is a simple portal where we can where we can export or we can publish our new APIs. And if at all you are designing your own projects and you want that project to be used by other people also, you can deploy to this Exchange and they can use it. Okay, this is a public portal. So if you can see here, there are multiple things we can search. Since this is my private one, we will not be able to see here. So this is my community edition, right? This is a free edition. We will not be able to search for new things. But if at all the client provides us the enterprise edition, right? In that edition, if you go to Exchange in their portal, you will be able to search for public APIs also. So let us start. So here, for the first step is, I have noted down the steps. The first step is publish API to Exchange. This is the first step we have to do. So how to publish API to Exchange, whatever API we have done. So here in Design Center, we have our API, employee onboard. So from here itself, we can publish our API to Exchange. So here you can say publish to Exchange. So this is example version. So here these two are mandatory. So here you can give, like, this is my first version, right? I will give 1.0.0 and I will say this is my V1. This is version 1. You will have more options here, but this is not required. But you can simply click on publish to exchange. So to deploy the API in the API manager, the first step is we have to publish our API from Design Center to Exchange. Successfully published to Exchange. You can go and see your API in Exchange now. So in this way, our API will be appearing in the Exchange. So if you see here, all the details. So whatever we have given, our APIs, add employee. So what we have seen in our Design Center, right? We can try it and all. So here also we can do all of the things. So here I will send. It will give response. So if at all the client is not interested in what is happening in the code, in the Design Center we have developed the YAML, right? So if you don't want to show the YAML and the client is not a technical person, you can simply publish it to Exchange, and you can give this URL. You can give this URL, and if at all the client has access to your account, he will review it. Like he will come here, and this is just a documentation. What APIs we are publishing, how it can get. So whatever the operations we are doing, how many responses are there. So entire thing, what is the documentation, we can show it in this UAV. So instead of documenting it in a Word document and all, Exchange gives us a facility where we can test it, simulate it. So we have seen it on the other day, what are the steps we need to do in design. We have to design it, we have to simulate it, we have to validate it with the client, take the feedback, and then our our API specification is ready. So once we have published to Exchange, you can check here whatever are the deployed to Exchange. So here see, I have deployed one sample API, and now I have deployed my employee onboard API. Okay, after this one, what we have to do is, from this Exchange, we have to import the API manager. I will show you. So now the first step is completed. We have published to Exchange. Now we have to come to API manager, and we can publish it. We can manage from our Exchange. Manage API from Exchange. Here if I type, see, it is coming automatically. If I give any other things like I have deployed some mock, right? I will give mock. It will not come because this mock, whatever I have in runtime manager, is not published to Exchange. Whatever it is there in Exchange, it will come here. So I will say onboard, employee onboard. These are all automatically will load, and no need of doing anything here. This is all default things. Come save. So this is deployed now. So if you see, the API status is unregistered now. So what is this unregistered? How to do this one? I will tell you. And here we have one thing called API instance ID. So this is very important, API ID. And this is auto discovery. So this auto discovery is very important. Why we use it, I will tell you. So in any interview, there won't be like they will ask at least one question about what is auto discovery. So I will tell you what to do here. Auto discovery, why we use it. Okay, we have to take care of this API ID. We need this ID. Okay, the next step. So first step is completed. Publish API to Exchange. Then we are importing it to API Manager. So now we have to apply. So we have to apply policies here. So if you see here, we have many things. Like here, the API status is there. Implementation URL, API version, name, and if you see here, there will be something called policies. So from here, we can add policies to our API. So if you click on apply policy, you will see many things like cross-origin resource sharing. You will have basic authentication. For this basic authentication, we need to do some changes in our API. I will show you. And if you scroll down, auth authentication, we will have client ID enforcement. So in this way, we will have many things. So how to apply this one? We cannot simply go and apply this one. We need to do some certain steps. I will show you. The next step is we have to enable our auto discovery. So what is auto discovery is? So here we have our API deployed in API Manager, and we have our API deployed in Runtime Manager. But how to link these two? So how Mule will understand that the whatever API which is running in Runtime Manager is linked to this particular API. So to make this link, what we do is we have to take this employee ID, sorry, API ID, whatever it is there here. So if you see here, administration in the version 1, if you see here, we have employee ID. This employee ID, if we register in our Mule code, this will be registered, and if we deploy that Mule code to Runtime Manager, these two will be linked. So let me show you how to link that one. So this is our project. Okay. In this project, go to the main one. In the global elements, so this is my main flow. Wherever my API kit router is, that will be considered as a main flow. And in the global elements, create a auto discovery, API auto discovery component. Click on it, and here you will be asked for API ID. So what is our API ID means this one. In the API manager, we will have an API ID. Copy this one and paste it here. And to which flow means we have to give our main flow, whatever we have, wherever we have this one API router, right? API kit router, that we have to select. So this is the employee onboard main. Let me just go cross verify. Yeah, employee onboard main. Okay, I'm saving it. Now I have connected this one, my API manager ID to our code. So to this to happen, to this to go live, we have to deploy this again. Okay, we have to deploy this to runtime manager. Before that, auto discovery and configuration, give the ID, select API kit router. This we have done. And one more thing which we have to do is in the Windows. So here you can see multiple options. Go to Windows. You can go to preferences, and in Anypoint Studio, go to API manager. So here I have written this here, but generally if you do it, you will be having empty here. So how to get these IDs are, go to here in Anypoint platform, go to access management, and you can see your organization here 180. So I have simply created one my account, right? That is why it is giving like this. So in the cloud, in the client projects, if you have multiple organization, you have to ask, like suppose if a client has multiple projects, you have to ask client which one to consider. So here I will be seeing client ID and client secret. You can click show here. So these two are very important. So copy these two to your project here, client ID and client secret. You can validate here. It says organization 180. It means our project is connected to our Anypoint platform. And click on apply and apply close. Since I have already done this, it is coming in this way. But when you are doing for the first time, it will be blank. It will be something like this. If you won't have anything here, you have to copy it from access management. Okay. Then after that, we have to, so now what we have done, we have the first step is we have published to exchange, then we have imported it, and to apply policies, these are the steps. Get the API ID and configure the auto discovery. So here in MuleFlow, we have configured the auto discovery, and also we have configured the client ID and client secret. So to this goal, so to apply these changes in our runtime manager, we have to deploy our project again. So this entire project has to be deployed again. So how to deploy it? You can go and right click on the project, Anypoint platform, deploy to Cloud Hub. Okay, so here override the existing application. And if you see here, all these properties, so I have mentioned, right? So this client ID, whatever the client ID, client secret, URI, and all this will be automatically coming when we configure client ID and client secret in our Anypoint Studio preferences. So now just deploy the application. Let it deploy. In the meantime, we'll go over the steps. So now after deploying it, so if we do until these steps, if we do, it means our API will be ready for the applying policies. We can apply all these policies. Today we'll see how we can apply basic authentication, client ID enforcements, cross-origin resource sharing. So what is cross-origin resource sharing is, so if at all our APIs are ready and they're ready, right? So if at all they want to be used in any other applications, let's say the front-end application, like JavaScript or any ASP.NET. So if we don't enable this one, it won't be applicable to that particular UI. They won't be able to use our APIs. They'll be getting some errors like the API is not ready or something like that. If we enable this only, they will be able to use our APIs in front-end technologies. And what is rate limiting is, suppose if we, so now you might have known, right? Like any Flipkart or any Amazon, what they will say, in coming 1 hour only 500 phones are for this particular rate, so they can for particular discount. So whenever they launch some new phones, they will be giving some particular discount only for particular number of phones, like only 1,000 phones will be coming under this discount, and only until this half an hour or 1 hour they will be keeping offer like that. So how they're limiting the number of transactions, how they are limiting the number of transactions for only 1,000. So that is called rate limiting. So we will see that if at all we apply this policy to our API, we will be able to hit our API for the rate how many given. Suppose if I want to hit my API only 5 times in my one minute. So if at all I give 6 times, if at all I transact, like if at all I hit my API 6 times, it won't be able to perform the operation. I will explain you SLA, what is SLA and client ID enforcement. I will explain you. Let me just see if at all this is deployed. Open in browser. Updating. So these are the general steps. I will send it to you. So these are the steps which we need to follow for applying any policies in API Manager. How to deploy the application in API Manager and how to enable our policies. So for that enabling, so whenever they ask you the question like why do we need to use auto discovery, so you can simply say that to apply any policies in for our API in API Manager, we have to enable auto discovery in our Mule project, and for that enabling we need API ID. We will give that. To connect between API Manager and Runtime Manager, we have to use auto discovery. You can say something like this. Any questions?
No, Kitty.
Okay, let it deploy. Let me check the logs. It says your application has successfully started, but let's wait for the green symbol here because it will be loading some necessary jar files. If at all we proceed further, some errors may happen. So let's just wait for the signal here.
Meanwhile, can you open that notepad, Kitty? We'll write that details. API.
Oh, no need of writing. I will send it to you. I will send it to you here.
Okay.
Mm. Yeah, it is started. Let's just verify if it is working or not. So this is my API. So it is working. We have not applied any policies yet. It is simply working. So how many times if I hit, it is not giving any error. So it is working. Now let's see. Let's go to API manager. API manager. So we have employee onboard. So if you see the status here, now it is active. So earlier we have seen that it is unregistered, but now it became active because we have enabled auto discovery and gave this employee ID to our project. That means we have linked this API in API manager to the API in our runtime manager. That's why we have to verify this if at all the status is active or not. Now let's go and apply the policies. I will say new policy. Why I cannot see this HTTP? Generally, this should be enabled. I don't know why it is coming like this. Let me check. Security. Okay, I think I have enabled it for the other one. That's why, but it should not matter. Let me just disable for this one. For the sample one, I have enabled this one. So I have enabled all of this and okay, let me.
It is disabled, right? Kirti, authentication is disabled.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Request a security manager policy. And I don't see this. This should not be a case actually. Whenever we are writing, right? Whenever we are applying policies, this should be enabled. Internal service error. Let me just see.
I think by default it will take, or it not like that, right?
No. By default, it will not take. We have to apply. We have to apply our authentication here.
Okay.
Let me just do one thing. Maybe I'll simply undeploy this one. There is a problem with this API actually. That might have been a problem. I will
How to undeploy, Kirti? Sorry, I did not see what you clicked.
No, I did not undeploy it. I'm just this one. I'm removing this one. I'm removing all the policies actually. Policy
Okay.
order. But this should not affect our one. That is my concern for different applications, right? Mm, yes. So here we will be having an option here, delete API, export API like this. So you have asked that question, right? In generally, if you click here, you will be seeing this option, so you can delete it. But I did not delete it yet.
Okay.
Okay, I think there is a problem with this one. I'll get back to you. I will check for the. I will let's verify with the other policies. So let's see if at all we want to give the this one rate limiting. Suppose if I want to give rate limiting, let's see how to give this one. I'm selecting the rate limiting and configure policy. So I will give. Let's say I am giving three number of request, and I will give in 1 minute. In 1 minute, I should be able to do only 3 number of requests. If I hit it 4th time, it should be error. So this is the purpose of this API. So I will click on apply. It is applied. So if you see here now in the policies, one policy is already applied. Let's check now. So this is my API. I will send it 1 time, 2nd time, 3rd time. Okay, why is it not coming? Let me check. Is it applied or not? I think, let's see the logs once. Those should be applied successfully. If at all they are not applied, fail to retrieve API information for API. Okay, this is the problem. There is some problem with our API fetch is triggered. So this did not get successfully applied. So let's see the problem. Fail to retrieve API information for API. API this one 1605. This request will be retired after some back off time. The API is not Mule4 compatible. Let's check if at all we have given anything wrong. API manager. So client applications. I will remove this one and I will deploy it again, but it is Mule runtime 4.3.0 and this one, and version is this one, group ID, configuration, client. So here let me try by giving our implementation URL in the runtime manager. So whatever I have given here, right? In the runtime manager, I have my implementation URL. Let me just give it here. I think that might be a problem. I'll give here in the configuration. I'm giving the implementation URL like this. Save. Now let me check this one, the logs. There is a problem.
So this API ID is from Mule4 only, right, Kirti? From
Yes.
till Mule3, there was no ID, right?
No, there is ID. Mule API is ready. There should be an API ID, but the UI and the implementation will be different.
Okay.
Let me just do one thing. Let me undeploy this one. I will say delete API. And I will import it again. Manage API from Exchange. I'll select my API. These are all the default ones. No need of doing anything here. Okay, see here, I have not selected this one. Select if you are managing this API using Mule4 or above. So this should be selected by default. So if I did not select this one, it will be considered that it is a Mule3 version and it will be facing a problem. So now if I select this one Mule4 version, let's see, it should work. unregistered. So this is a different ID we got. 75. Let me just redeploy it again.
The ID got changed, right, Kirti?
Yes, because I have deployed this as new one, right? I have deleted the old one and I have deployed this as a new API. That is why the ID has been different and we have to deploy it again to make the changes, to reflect the changes.
Okay.
Deploy to Cloud Hub. One platform, deploy to Cloud Hub. Let's check here. Obviously, it will take some time. Deploying. It did not deploy again. It is updating, still updating. This is the old log. This is 545. Now we have to get our API ID of 75, I think. This is our new thing. 575. In the meantime, I think Rahul, yesterday you had some questions, but you are unable to connect, right? Can we discuss now?
No, Kirti, I don't have any question. Actually, what I said means I didn't do any assignment. That's what I said to you.
Okay. So this applying policies is very important. So even if we miss one thing, so we'll be having some problems like this. So if at all you have any problems while your policies are not applying, so as I just did, go to runtime manager and check the logs. It will say you whatever is required. So if you see here, the API is not MuleSoft compatible. This will only explain half of our errors. And there will be questions for how to deploy your how will you connect for your API from runtime manager to API manager, and why do we need to do auto discovery, like that. At least one question will be there on auto discovery. Okay, this is still unregistered. If this gets registered, that will become registered. Initializing. The application has started successfully. Let's see if at all this is. No, this has to come as green color, then only it will also come.
సో ఇది డిప్లాయ్ అయ్యాక కీర్తి సో హెచ్టిపి బేసిక్ ఆథెంటికేషన్ అనేది ఎనేబుల్ కావాలి కదా అందులో లిస్ట్ లో
Yes, it should be enabled. It is active, so it may take for some time for getting this to green, but let's go ahead because it says active here. Let's see here, and policies. There are no policies because that is the old application which we have done. So this is the new application. Here we should be able to see basic authentication simple. Okay, basic authentication simple. Now I will configure it. So it is better we select the always we select the latest version only. You can configure it. Configure policy. And here you can give whatever you want to give. Suppose I want to give integration user. And this is only my password. Apply. It's okay. This is a Chrome enabled one, so don't worry about it. So now you will be able to see basic authentication is enabled. So now let's check here. So here I'm not giving any authorization as of now. I will send. I think it did deploy or not. Let's check. It should be deployed. Let this come to green.
running, right?
Yeah, it is still, it will be still running, but all the things to come into effect, it should be coming as green.
Okay.
Let's wait for this one. The application is started. Now let's check. Authentication attempt failed. Okay. So to get this work, I have to give my user here. Integration user. Now it should work. Success. Even if I give some wrong username, it should not work. Authentication attempt failed. Okay, like this we can apply many things here. So this is just for basic authentication. So suppose if you want, now let's keep our rate limiting. So I will give rate limiting the first option. So this is the latest version, and I will give configure policy, and no need of giving any identifier here. I'll just give 3 requests in 1 minute. Apply. This is applied. Now let's check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let me check whether it is applied or not. Something problem is there. Runtime manager, check the logs. That is the only thing we can do. Rate limiting. Hence, number of requests. Yeah, fine. 10 minute.
It should fail, right, Kirti, after 2 requests?
Yeah, it should fail. After 3 requests, it should fail. Quota has been exceeded. I think it takes some time to apply that policy. So let me just I'll remove this one. For applying the policy, it is taking some time, like 1 minute or so. I will disable for now. For applying this method, policy, right, whatever we have done, I think it is taking some time to apply the policies. That's why it is giving this type of situation. Enable. Let's give it some time, because I'm immediately checking it is having some problem. Let's give it some time. In the meantime, let's go and create one more new policy, which is called as client ID enforcement. So this is also one of the important question. So like now we are giving username and password. So this is the basic authentication type, right? So if the client asks you like, I want to have client ID enforcement. What is client ID enforcement is, here you will be able to see one policy called as client ID enforcement. So before applying this policy, we have to do one thing in Exchange. I will go to my Exchange. And for my employee onboard API, I will click on request access. So here we need to have a application created. So for this one, so what is client ID enforcement is, so what client says is, I will have a application created. For that application created only, this access have to be given. So for that, what we can do is create a new application, give application like onboard client, and these are all optional. Just create it. Request access. If you click on request access now, it will show you client ID and client secret. So for this client ID and client secret only, it should work, or API should work. Let's just copy this one, client ID and client secret. I will close. So now I will go to my API manager. And for this, my employee onboard, I'll apply policy for client ID enforcement. What client ID and what client secret we have to give? We have to give these two things. So add new policy, client ID, client enforcement, the new version, configure policy. So here it will tell you that you have to give in this way, client underscore ID. Copy this one just for your purpose, client underscore ID and client underscore secret. You can say click on apply. So this will also be applied. So let's just wait for 1 minute, because it is taking some time to apply policies. And in the meantime, let's check this one. It will be 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. How many times we are giving? It is giving success only, because I have disabled the rate limiting. Okay, so whatever you apply the policies, let's just wait for 1 minute. Let me enable this one, or let us first try for client and ID enforcement and then try for this one. Now you are getting authentication denied. Why? We are giving basic authentication also, but still it is giving authentication error because the client ID enforcement has been enabled now. So for that to work, what we have to do is we have to give client ID here, client ID and client secret here. First one is client ID. In the headers, here you will be having one option called as headers. Go to ID, key is client ID, and what is the value you have to give? You have to give this one. And secret, client ID, client underscore secret. This is the secret. Now send. Now it is becoming success. Even if I give now, suppose let's say I will give equal to, it will not work. Invalid client. I will give success. So this is how you can provide authentication. Like if at all a client asks, he wants client ID instead of basic authentication, he wants this one client ID enforcement. You can configure in this way. If at all you want both, you can do in this way. So now we have applied both of the things, basic authentication and also client ID enforcement.
In the use case prospect, when client ID enforcement client will ask any other example kind of.
So generally they will ask if at all, let's say here instead of basic authentication, right? So this is very generic one. So in the implementation, when we come to implementation in background, MuleSoft will give more security for client ID and client secret. Suppose let's say a client has multiple applications. So this API is being used by let's say 2 mobile applications. And for those 2 mobile applications, the authentication has to be different. So in that case, what we can do is in exchange, we can create one more application in a similar way. And for that, we'll have one more client ID and client secret. So for the mobile application, first mobile application, we'll have one authentication, and for the second mobile application, we'll have another authentication. In that way, we can segregate the authentication types. Suppose in future, if at all he wants to disable authentication for mobile application, second mobile app, so what he can do? He will simply change the ID. Even he can simply change the authentication type. Okay, in this way he is doing the loose coupling. If at all he don't want client ID authentication for second app, so he can remove only for second app, no need of removing for the first app. In that way.
Okay.
And here we have one more called as, let's see, we have rate limiting SLA based. What is rate limiting SLA based is generally here, let me just, some characters have all, yeah, this is just, so here we have rate limiting, right? So if you want to perform rate limiting, including client ID secret, so you don't want to have these two. So now we have applied in the 2 ways, right? Client ID enforcement and rate limiting. If you want to combine these 2 things, you can go for this one, rate limiting SLA based. For that, I will just do one thing. What I will do is I will remove this one. So that will be enabled. I will remove this one. And now you can see here, rate limiting SLA based. This is enabled. So if we keep this one, our rate limiting and also client ID both together will be applied. There are no SLA types. Okay, for that let and apply. So here you can see here it is asking client ID and client secret, and also let me just 1 minute. Let me just check the rating. Yeah, here we have to apply here. So for applying SLA types, we have to create one SLA here. Let's say onboard client SLA. And here I have to give the number of requests. Suppose I want only 2 requests, and in 1 minute, add now. So this SLA will be applied to our rate limiting SLA policy. Let me just remove and again I will add it because a pop-up came and I just clicked on dismiss. It should not happen. I will click on rate limiting SLA based and I will select the first one. So before selecting the rate limiting SLA based, create an SLA in SLA tiers. Configure policy. Now apply. Now any pop-up did not come, it got applied. Now let's see, let's just wait for a couple of minutes because it is taking some time to get this policy to be applied. Let's check. So now I have given client ID, client secret, and my rate limiting should also be coming. So instead of multiple times, only two times it should work, and for the third time it should give me error. Let's check one time, second time. It is taking some time to get that policy applied. Now it is saying quota has been exceeded, like that. And this will also be working. Invalid client ID or client secret. So this basically, don't worry about what type we have to apply and all. This generally will be decided by on-site leads and all, and client also will be having some specifications. If at all he is having some applications which our APIs will be used. So based on that, he will give us requirements. But whatever he tells, we should be in a way that we can configure it on ourselves. Okay. Any questions? This will be little confusing. So if you do it on your own, you will be able to do it correctly. So practice. So if you have deployed your application, I think we have not deployed, right, any until now. So if you want to go and deploy your application and do all these steps, please go ahead. Okay. If there are no questions, we can continue tomorrow. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, Kirti, thank you.
Thank you.
They will invoice it. Invoice చేస్తే